Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Education, Forest Hills Board of Education for September 22nd, 2014 to order. Mr. Teffer, if you please call roll.
Mrs. Bissinger.
Here.
Dr. Heiss.
Here.
Mr. Hemmelgarn.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Fruman.
Here. If you'd please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We've got a full house today. I do want to make sure everybody knows where our safety exits are. There's one in the front of the room or back of the room, depending on your perspective. To my right, your left. We've got two over here and one all the way at the back of the room. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Teffer?
Mrs. Bissinger.
Yes.
Dr. Heiss.
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Fruman.
Yes. Approval of the minutes of the Business Advisory Committee of August 4th, 2014. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Teffer?
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Dr. Heiss.
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger.
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn.
Yes.
Mr. Fruman.
Yes. Item 3.2 is the approval of the minutes of our regular board meeting on August 25th, 2014.
Move we approve the minutes. Second.
Mr. Teffer?
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn.
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger.
Yes.
Dr. Heiss.
Yes.
Mr. Fruman.
Yes. And item 4.1, correspondence. Dr. Jackson?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Fruman. I do have a couple pieces of correspondence to share. First of all, I'd like to congratulate our Sherwood and Nagel Fuel Up Place 60 programs that were going to be honored at the OSBA conference in November. Actually, they're going to be presenting. That particular program is a program that is sponsored by the National Dairy Council and the NFL in collaboration with the USDA in regards to physical fitness and proper nutrition and staying healthy and fit and being active every day. So they will be presenting there. Excellent. So congratulations to both of those. And also, just another piece of correspondence, one that actually not only did Forest Hills, but over 60 school districts across the state of Ohio, just about a week ago, I guess it was, released our quality profile for the 2013-14 quality profile, which Natasha's going to be sharing this evening a little bit. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Teffer? Procedures for public commentary, item 4.2. This is not a public meeting, but a meeting held in public. We welcome anyone that would care to address us this evening. When we get to the appropriate time in the board meeting, typically we limit everybody to 5 minutes. Right now I have 5 cards. I think we'll do is limit it to 3 minutes tonight so that we're not here for 25 minutes. And of course, if there's any additional cards, we'll take them at the appropriate time. And then item 5.1, very excited, the National Merit Scholarship Program, our semi-finalist. Is that Natasha?
No, it's a high school principal.
Oh,
That would be
Mr. Broadwater.
Broadwater. We are very excited tonight to introduce to you our 2015 National Merit Semifinalist. As many of you have heard in the past, over 1.5 million students begin this competition earlier in their high school career. In September of this year, about 16,000 students were notified that they received the National Merit Semifinalist status. And we have quite the group of students here for you tonight. They are the highest scoring entrants in each state. It is a state representation, so cutoff scores do differentiate between the states. But to move on in the program as finalists, there are other things the students will be doing, including filling out a nice packet, which they become very, very good at. And these are students who you will see achieve success across the board in our buildings and probably hear their names multiple times before graduation in May of 2015. So at this time, we would like to recognize both the Anderson and the Turpin students. I'll begin. Rachel Gradone, I did see her. Come on up, Rachel. You can just stand right there. Liam Grebert, I also saw him come in. Stephen Leonis. Anna Moorhead. And Sophia Paul.
Thank you. First of all, congratulations to the Turpin students. And from Anderson High School, Emma Anderson. Lillian Bishop. Andrew Black. Thomas Wong. Joanna Lepke. And Kent Mendoza. And I don't know if I saw the next one come in. Alex Stringfellow. There's Alex. And I think we would be remiss if we did not recognize the parents of our National Merit semifinalists. If you could please stand so we could recognize you. We know it's not easy.
To be official, I move that we commend the National Merit semifinalists from Turpin and Anderson.
Second. Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
All right, now.
I think you guys should. There's way more of them And that you are allowed to leave now after we get everybody got their picture. All right, very well. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
Many before? So, Dr. Jackson, as people are clearing out, have we had as many as 12?
Not in recent history. No, I don't believe so.
That's great.
Wonderful. Well done, everybody.
Wow.
Ms. Adams, item 5.2, we don't want the students to outdo our teachers.
That's right. I'm very proud to recognize the science teachers today. The Ohio Academy of Science and the Technology Division of the Ohio Department of Development once again recognized Anderson and Turpin High Schools with the 2014 Governor's Thomas Edison Awards for excellence in STEM education during the 2013-14 school year. Only 57 schools and 486 teachers in the state were selected for this honor. And just to give you guys a little bit of a picture of what we are being recognized for, it's for many of the extracurricular opportunities that we offer in science class that goes beyond the classroom. Events such as the science fair, and to receive this award you have to have students who actually move on past the districts onto a state science fair. The UC Bridge project that the physics students compete in, and the live surgery that the anatomy students witness. And so we are especially thankful for the department chairs, Corey Mullins from Turpin and Holly Loudon from Anderson, who do a lot of behind-the-scenes leadership work to make this possible. So I'd like to begin by I'm going to recognize each teacher, and if you'll just come up to receive your certificate and be recognized by the board. From Anderson High School, Emily Dorsey. Justin Good. Jeff Granger. Jeff Granger.
Right there.
Louise Keep, who's not here with us this evening. Holly Loudon from Anderson. Jeff Rodriguez. Courtney Snyder. And Krista Willards, who's not able to be here with us tonight. And from Turpin High School, we have Lindsay Cam. Gail Garza. Corey Mullins. Carmen Vendito. And Aaron Walker. Every once in a while we get it right. Every once in a while. The superintendent recommends that the board commend Anderson and Turpin High Schools and the teachers mentioned for their achievement and distinction, and a certificate that we'd like to give to you. So I just want to say a special thanks. I know that you do a lot of work outside of the classroom, and there's so much that goes into preparing and making science a hands-on, engaging experience for students, and we know you do that day in and day out, not just on these special occasions. So we appreciate all you do. Thank you.
I move that we officially recognize Anderson and Turpin High School teachers for their achievement with the 2014 Governor's Thomas Edison Awards for Excellence in STEM Education for the 2013-14 school year.
Second.
Mr. Tepfer?
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi there. Thanks. Thank you.
Yes, right up here. Come on up here. So we have, is it my turn? It's our turn. Well, it's their turn. Okay, we have volunteer recognition tonight, and this will make sense in a moment, but I'm keeping Mr. Vendito up here because you can see there's a map of China over there, and off the coast there's a place called Taiwan, and Dr. Jackson and I and a lot of people that I'll recognize, a lot of them tonight, have been working. You saw Alex Stringfellow in here earlier. Alex went to China last year. Three Forest Hill students, one from Turpin, two from Anderson, went to New Taipei City last year as part of the Cincinnati, USA Sister City Association. We are expanding that program this year even more, and the board, you'll hear more about that in the coming weeks and months. But to be part of that, Forest Hills needed a teacher to go along with our group to New Taipei City, and Mr. Vendito graciously volunteered 2 weeks of his time in June. He was their chaperone. I believe you also taught a physics lesson while you were in. We have video of it. And I'm just very thankful for his time that he gave to our students in the summertime, and I know that he had a great experience, and it's the beginning of a great relationship between Forest Hills and the sister city, and I wanted to take a minute to recognize him. So thank you. Okay. So I will exit the stage here in just a moment because we have two guests with us tonight, and I would like them to come up and introduce themselves and talk about their experience so far. We have a Mandarin instruction in Nagel and Turpin and Anderson, and we are very just excited to have these guest teachers with us, and I just couldn't be happier or prouder of them and all the work that they've done so far. So I would like Helen and Carol to come forward and tell us a little bit about yourselves. You probably need the microphone. Maybe we can go down and watch that cord there. Go ahead. Why don't you introduce yourself, Helen?
Hello everyone, I'm Helen He, and my real name is He Yanxin. He spell like H-E, probably like a little bit different from yours H-E, so it's not he, is He. I live in northeast of China, and the weather will, I would say, maybe like Michigan during the winter time, so it will be a little bit colder than here. I'm an English teacher in China, actually. This is not my first time to be in the States to teach Chinese. I taught in Indiana in 2010 to 2011, that school year. And I really enjoyed my teaching, so I applied this program again. So.
Thank you.
大家晚上好。萨瓦迪卡，杜麦拉。我叫陈真，来自中国。My name is Chen Zhen. I came from China, and last 3 years, I'm as a volunteer in Thailand for 1 year. So Sawadika means hello everyone. And 2 years in Africa, in Botswana, as a volunteer to teach Chinese. And so Dumela means hello everyone in African language. Yeah, I'm so proud. This is the third United States, the third country I work. So I enjoy my experience teaching Chinese and also experience the world. And so happy to with my students. And before I came here, I have 3 weeks training in Beijing and 10 days training in UCLA, and I get some very professional trained. So also here I get a lot of help from very kind people. So thanks.
So Helen and Carol have basically arrived in Cincinnati on October 1st, and it has been, getting ahead of myself, on August 1st. And they worked very hard, and a lot of people worked very hard. And I said earlier, this is like the Oscar speech where I know I'm going to forget somebody who has helped out. But we put out both. They need a place to live, of course, so we had to find furnishings for apartments. And I put out a mass email to Nagel, Turpin, and Anderson, and we pretty much collected enough furniture to fill both of their apartments. People donated dressers, beds, mattresses, desks, tables, and the list, this is not everyone, and dishware and all the things that it takes to set up a household. The teachers and people who donated items late summer sharing. Ann Haichia here in central office has helped on so many levels, taking Helen and Carol around, working to help them get their driver's licenses and all of their paperwork in order, and she has just been invaluable. There are mentors in all of the buildings. Laura Martinez at Turpin, Ella Campos at Anderson. I know Amanda Hanley has worked very hard with them at Nagel as well. Jody McKinley at Nagel has worked very hard with helping. We had a conversation early, and I said, there are people in every building you need to know. Jody McKinley is one of those people at Nagel, so get to know her, and they have. The building principals have been awesome, and the teaching staffs have just really wrapped their arms around Helen and Carol. Natasha and everyone here in the curriculum and instruction team has been great. Dr. Jackson for agreeing to start this program to bring Mandarin instruction here, and Mr. Tepfer for helping figure out how to make all that happen. Money-wise, Carmen Vendito also gave a lot of rides and help to Carol, and Ellen Chamberlain here in central office has been magnificent. However, there are people that we're honoring here tonight. And first off, I would like to have Kay and Steve Brinker come forward. Kay and Steve graciously volunteered to host Helen and Carol for the entire month of August in their home. They took them in, they made them a part of their family, and I was awed really by how kind they are and how much joy they've taken and how their relationship has grown in just a short amount of time. In fact, I was on the phone with Carol on Saturday and I heard something and it sounded like Oktoberfest and it sounded like fun, and they were on their way to it. So I was a little bit jealous, actually. So I just want to publicly thank the Brinkers for everything that they have done, and your service to Forest Hills and to our students is just invaluable. So thank you very much. Just a little token.
To make this official, I move that the board commend Steve Brinker and Kay Castle Brinker and Gerald Gunning, and that we provide a certificate of appreciation for their service to the school district.
Second. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Let me finish up real. Let me talk about the other person involved. So we don't have public transportation here in Anderson Township, so Helen and Carol need to drive, and they had some learning to do when they got here. And I worked with Jerry Gunning for 8 years at Turpin, and I've heard Forrest Heiss talk about Jerry Gunning teaching him to drive. And so I called Jerry and just said, hey, can you maybe drive them around for a couple of hours, get them situated on the Ohio roads? And he said, sure, you know, I've got the time, I'll be glad to help out. And he didn't just do it once. I don't even know how many lessons you gave them, but I bet it's upwards of 8 to 10 and hours each time. And I will say more than 10 lessons. And so that one day Jerry was picking them up here, and I said, where are you going? He said, way out, New Richmond. I just so appreciated everything that you've done to help get them situated, and thank you so much, Jerry, for everything. So.
Thanks, Jerry.
All right. Take care. All right. Want to stay in?
Yeah.
Item 5.4, recognition of outstanding AP performance.
First, I want to say thank you to Brad. With all the people that he just mentioned and all the help, I mean, Brad has coordinated all of this. So I've heard him saying the word Mandarin from his office since the spring of last year, and he's still paying attention to every single detail and has done a fabulous job. So thank you, Brad. To quote what I feel kind of reflects the principals is, this is something that they would say: in this school, we don't do easy, we make easy happen through hard work and learning. These principals have a growth mindset, and they foster this kind of thinking with all of their faculty and staff, as well as their as well as the student body. And so we wanted to take a special opportunity this school year to recognize the AP performance at both Anderson and Turpin High School, because it is excellent, and they've both schools have put a lot of effort and energy into expanding and broadening this program. And so Brad's going to give you a little bit of history, a little bit of background on AP and what it's looked like in Forest Hills, so you can get an idea of why we're so impressed with where we are with that. So, ready? Okay.
Is this the first one? Okay. So this is, we're in 2014, and 2014 has come and gone as far as testing purposes go. But you can see that green number there. What's that say? 1,519. And the number before that is 870. That's 2013. That is the difference in the number of AP exam tests given in just 1 year. 870 in 2013, almost more than 1,500 in 2014. So the number almost doubled. That's putting both schools together. That is, I don't even know how to describe that. It's just unprecedented and such a large jump in the number of tests that have been administered. There were classes added, yes, but the pool of students every year just continues to expand who's been invited and encouraged and pushed into AP courses, and that is a massive jump. The second line there is what's called equity and excellence. That is a formula that is basically a very simple formula. That is the percentage, that number. In 2013 it was 35.3, in 2014 it was 44.6. That is the percentage of students, all students, who graduated from your high school achieving a 3 or more in at least one AP test. So equity and excellence, there's no way to cheat that number. There's no way you give it to one student who's excellent and he or she takes 15 tests. Great, doesn't help your equity and excellence. It's all about spreading the knowledge and the rigor throughout your school. And so that number jumped 10% from 2013 to 2014. So if you think about that in the context of a graduating class, that's about 60 more students from 1 year to the next who received a 3 or better in at least one AP subject. I couldn't be prouder and happier and more in awe of all the hard work that goes into that. I wasn't even in the buildings last year. I was here in central office, and it was hard to do that 870 number of exams. I don't honestly know how they did the 1,500, and I think this year it might be closer to 2,000 exams given. So those are amazing results.
So we'd like to have Peggy and Mike come forward to receive the certificate and be honored in their seats.
I move that the board commends our two principals for outstanding work in increasing our AP performance.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes. I also want to say, you know, the old chicken and egg thing, we had, what was it, 12 National Merit semifinalists up here. We had, I think, if I counted, 13. But not all of them. We had 13 of our teachers from Anderson and Turpin get the STEM awards, and I know for a fact that it's no mistake when Brad Chamberlain says that these students are pushed and prod to take these AP exams, and I don't know what comes first. I don't know if it's the pushing and prodding, or it's the semifinalists, or it's the STEM teachers, or more likely it's a little bit of everything in combination, and we are so fortunate in Forest Hills to have Peggy Johnson and Mike Broadwater and every single one of those STEM teachers and the others that are teaching the non-STEM classes, and just wonderful students and supportive parents, and it shows on that chart we had just a moment ago. So thank you so much.
It's the Brad and Natasha show tonight, sorry. We're going to move on now to look at a comprehensive picture of the school district. And I've asked Megan Lawson and Anita Eshelman to come up and join us as we present a picture of the district that goes beyond the report card and actually shares some of the quality profile. It's the PowerPoint you were just in. Okay. One of the things that I want to mention is that there are 6 main components of the report card, and if you'll remember, last year was the first year of this new looking report card where it's letter grades instead of the title of Excellence with Distinction or Excellence or Continuous Improvement. So we are going to share this with you today, and just in general I want to let you know that as a district leadership team, we've been working very hard at analyzing the data over the last 3 to 5 years really, to kind of zoom in and figure out like where are our spots that need some attention and where are we doing really well so we can build from that success. And so we've done that collectively and are working hard to revamp and look at the strategic plan, make some tweaks in it, and to make sure that we have SMART goals that are set up to not only address the achievement with that throughout our school district. We want to look at goals that are going to help us to close the performance gap that exists, as well as goals that will help us to show growth from year to year with our students. So the first slide reflects the look of the new report card. Anybody can download this on ODE, and you'll see where it says coming in 2016. There's going to be letter grades listed there in the future. And what we're going to do for you tonight is just break down each piece. And just a reminder, if you've forgotten from last year, there are several components to the report card, and each one is kind of graded on a different grading scale. And often when people are looking at the report cards, they're looking at as a grade as kind of grading our services, and that's not really what these grades reflect. It's about the achievement and the growth of individual students and subgroups of students. So you can keep going. Performance index is where we'll begin, and that just reflects the percentage of students who pass, and that's where we got our first letter grade. You can keep going. And for Forest Hills, we have an 89.1% in performance index, very, very close to an A, and we got an A because we met all of our indicators. In the area of achievement, we've set a goal of ourselves that we wanted to, from the year before, we wanted to increase achievement by 2% in every single subject area. So if you look across the top, you see reading from last year to this year, math from last year to this year, et cetera, all the way across science, social studies, and writing. And we have some spots, and we got really nitty-gritty in looking at the data so that we could highlight the areas that need some attention and the areas that we're doing pretty well. And so the areas we're going to be focusing on specifically are 3rd grade, 5th grade, and 7th grade in those transition years. The next slide reflects graphically, it reflects the measures of academic progress assessments that were given last year for the first time. They were given in grades K through 8, and they represent the online testing that we shifted to last year. And it was our first time, and there was a lot of kind of ups and downs with the onset of online assessments in our district. So it was a learning experience. But we did find, if you'll notice, the graphs look very, very similar to one another from left to right. And that is because the map makes a projection of how they think students are going to do on the actual OAA assessment. And we found that the map projections really were pretty on target for how our students performed in the OAA. So we are continuing with our usage of MAP this school year that not only shows achievement but measures student growth, which is a tool we've never had at our disposal before in the district. And we've cut it down just to K through 6th grade. And our hope in this upcoming year, because the assessments are changing, we're not sure how well these projections will work or not, but we're going to continue to know that they're a good measure. Next is just a visual of the district performance index. You can see over time from 2009-10 all the way up to now, we've been very close in the ranging from like 109 to where we are this year at 106.9. And the thing that you need to know is this is out of a scale of 120, which is the absolute highest you can get. And that would mean that everybody in the district has to have the highest level of achievement, every single student. And so to bring it into perspective a little bit, 114 is the most that a school district has achieved. And really that 114 represents a charter school. 113 is really the highest that a public school has achieved. And so we're in that 106.9 range. And one thing that we want to be clear about is that in Forest Hills, you know, we're not looking out the window when it comes to paying attention to our data. We're taking a look in the mirror. We're looking at ourselves and we're reflecting really hard on where do we need to dig in, where do we need to be aligned more, where do we need to be strategic to help improve our scores. And that's what we're spending all of our energy as district leaders and teachers doing. Another measure of the report card is what we call gap closing, and what that represents is it compares the performance of students who are maybe in different income levels, different races, or different ethnicities to the achievement of the rest of the students in the school district. And so last year we were a C, and this year we continue to be at that C kind of middle range. And so obviously this is an area where we're putting a lot of attention. Just recently we worked as a district leadership team and doing some root cause analysis so we can get down to why this seems to be true, so we can get down and narrow our focus because things that you can put more energy into are more likely to get done. And we want to make sure that we have practices that are reflected throughout the district, that are consistent and completed with fidelity. This picture is more of the gap closing, and it's broken down by reading, math, and the graduation rate. And you can see the different colors represent the different subgroups across the district, and the red line is kind of like the bar we're trying to get to. And that just visually gives you an idea. If you turn to the next slide, you'll see that the measurement that we're speaking of is annual measurable objectives. And this is one of those, when we talk about moving targets in education, the targets last year were 84.9 in reading and then 80.5 in math. We had some challenges in all subgroups meeting that. And yet, next year, our goal is 86.4 and 82.5. And so we're working very hard to put some realistic measures in place, and we're hoping to at least improve by 4% in each of our subgroup areas for this year as we focus and try to make that gap smaller. Okay, next up, I'm going to have Anita Eshelman come and talk a little bit about the K-3 literacy measure, which is new on this year's report card.
So as we have gotten some preliminary scores about the K-3 literacy data, what we have also found out is that districts across the state of Ohio got their data back and looked at it in regard to what they reported, and it didn't seem right. And so you may notice in very tiny writing that it says a number of districts, were not satisfied with the way that the numbers came back. And so ODE has gone back to kind of the drawing board and is reviewing everything that was submitted, is most likely opening up a window for resubmission. So all of this information is preliminary and may not even come out this year. But what's important is that I can explain to you what the data means, whether it's this year and on this report card or it's for next year's report card. So a key piece is when we think of K-3 literacy, most parents, most teachers, most educators go right to what they've heard and read in the newspapers, which is a third grade reading guarantee. The K-3 literacy grade is not the same thing as the third grade reading guarantee. And so it's really important that we understand that those two grades are very different. There's not even a grade for the third grade reading guarantee. Forest Hills put a lot of time and a lot of effort, a lot of energy into ensuring that our third graders were not retained and that they were able to be promoted to fourth grade. And all of them were. All of them met the threshold that they needed to in order to make that promotion. So when it comes to third grade reading guarantee, we can show that we were excellent. The K-3 literacy is a very different measure. It's not just third grade. There's a little snapshot up there It's hard to read, but it's also hard to explain and understand. It's kindergarten, first grade, and second grade is measured differently than third grade. So kindergarten gets a score from fall to fall. First grade gets a score from a fall test to the next fall test. Second grade is the same way. However, the third grade score is a fall diagnostic and then how the students did on the OAA. So in a few different aspects, we're not comparing apples to apples. We're comparing two different tests. So, and if you look at the way that we have been reported for the last 2 years, that's the same case for K to 3. Because the diagnostic that we gave when we initially had to report was what's called the Ohio Diagnostic Assessment. And that assessment is required by the state to be given every year. So that's what we gave for our first diagnostic reporting as to whether or not the students were on track. Then it came around to fall of last year, and we had adopted the map. For obvious reasons, Natasha has talked to you about what the map can do for us, the information that we can use to guide our instruction, and the data that it gives us. So the second number that we report was based on the map score. So fall to fall was 2 different tests for K to 2. And then when we get to third grade, fall to spring is 2 different tests. Now we're comparing the diagnostic to the OAA. And they didn't just have to meet the threshold, they had to pass it. So it's not talking about the third grade reading guarantee. So there's a lot of information in just that one little report card. But what I want you all to walk away with and understand is that those are 2 very different pieces. And what we know from what our current information is that the third grade reading guarantee, our students were amazing.
We always talk to you about all the pieces that are confusing. This probably took 6 different webinars to explain. Then we have another 2-hour one coming up later this week. This is just one of those targets and things that keep changing. And when you're comparing 2 different data sets, it's very complicated to explain or even understand how it's even helping us. And so we're continuing to persevere and keep focusing on doing what's best for students in Forest Hills and trying to let this noise not get in our way too much. Okay, and up next I'm going to have Megan Lawson come and talk a little bit about progress. And progress is a measure of the growth of students. And we'd hope every year that we are experiencing at least a year's worth of growth, but we want to go beyond that.
Thank you. Speaking of things that are difficult to understand, this is a value-added measure, and I think it can be difficult to understand, so I'm going to try to explain it in simple terms for the purpose of this audience. Value-added is, in essence, as Natasha mentioned, it's our progress, it's our growth, versus earlier when she talked about achievement, that was the number of students who were passing. We're trying to increase our percentage proficiency numbers there. But progress is actually, it's basically a 3-year average gain for each of those groups. So to start, I wanted to highlight that all grades are a rich green color up there. And what that means is they were actually at least 2 standard deviations higher, than the growth standards that are relative to, 2010, Ohio established a norm. And so our students actually are growing by at least 2 standard deviations higher as a group than that norm. The only area where it's a little bit different is 5th and 8th grade, because those aren't consecutive years of testing. You know, we only have 5th and 8th grade science. So just for 5th and 8th grade science, they actually, they just use predictability. So they basically, they're not tested in consecutive years, and therefore growth is relative to the average of the testing pool. And I think I've got another slide there. So we have a nice A for gifted growth. And we have a C, which we mentioned we're trying to continue to grow our students with disabilities. And then we had a C for students in the lowest 20% of achievement.
One thing I'll add about that is, again, some people, when they look at that, they think that's rating our services. So we have a C in students with disabilities, and that's not what that means. A C means that we met 1 year's worth of growth in students with disabilities, and the same with students in the lowest to 20%. So to get an A, you had to be two above. Right, I think the next the graduation rate, always very strong in Forest Hills. And I'm going to ask Brad to come forward and talk a little bit about the Prepared for Success. This is getting a little bit more into high school. And if you'll note from the progress slides that Megan shared, there's no reflection of high school in that. At this time, we don't have value added in the high school, but that'll be changing very soon. And that value added is going to be configured totally different than the value added we currently have. So it'll be something totally new for us to learn.
More webinars. Is there another? Okay. The Prepared for Success, they haven't given it a grade yet, but we've known it's been coming for a while. And where some of the others seem really difficult to understand, this one's pretty much just easier to understand. It's kind of a little more black and white. You have ACT participation rates, remediation-free rates for that, meaning did a student score high enough so that a college wouldn't place them into a remedial course in math or English, for example. SAT participation rate and remediation-free rates. The honors diploma, which is, it's a host of courses that you take plus an ACT or SAT score and GPA that goes with it. You'll see there's a couple of small ones. Industry recognized credentials. I printed out the list in Ohio. It's about 7 pages long of what are considered industry recognized credentials. Our Oaks program does a lot of those and provides a lot of those credentials that our students can achieve. Advanced placement we've talked about tonight, where you have the participation and then the scores of 3 or better. And then the final one is dual enrollment credits. Last year I think we had 3 dual enrollment courses total. This year we've expanded. I believe there are 6 now. And then all of the College Credit Plus that's going to change for next year. That law just took effect last week. So we have to re-educate ourselves and then our community on the whole the newness of the College Credit Plus. So we do expect the dual enrollment credits to continue to rise as well.
This is important because the way you can graduate from high school is changing. There's multiple ways you can do it. You can do it through this industry recognized credentialing. You can do it through scoring certain levels on the ACT and SAT, as well as through the end of course or end of year exams that will be taking place new starting this year. Megan's going to come forward and talk a little bit about the Explore and Plan, which are part of the ACT family, and how our results are across the district.
We've remained fairly consistent across the past 2 years. So you have on the left side 2012 data. At the top we have Explore, so 2012 for English, then 2013, and you can read across for the different subject areas. So you can see there that we remained fairly consistent. And then again for the plan test on the next chart below. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we are well above national averages in all of these subject areas on both of these assessments. And if you go to the next slide, the same is true for the ACT and SAT. And I actually made a point to do a little dark green shading for the reading 2014, just because we had a significant leap on the SAT in reading last year. And again, remaining very consistent and well above national averages, which I'm very proud of that.
It's our plan to continue this ACT family assessment. So we're going to begin this year in 7th grade. It's now called the Aspire, but it's also part of the same thing. And there will be Aspire testing in 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade to help us judge that career college readiness. And I just want to take a moment to especially thank the Forest Hills Foundation for all their help and support in prepping those students. Okay, so we want to move on to the quality profile, because it's really important for us in Forest Hills not only to talk about our report card and the areas that we are strong in and the areas we want to focus on, but we want to get that full picture of what's it mean to be in Forest Hills. What's the added value to coming to the school district? And so you can go ahead. We've already mentioned the AP results. This we talked about that earlier, so you can go on. This year, last school year, we had 92 AP scholars, 55 with honors, 76 with distinction. I mean, the numbers are incredible every single year, and as you can tell from tonight, these numbers are even going to grow for national merit, etc. We were recognized in the Cincinnati Magazine for having 2 high schools in the top 10 best schools in Southwest Ohio, for which we're very proud. We've added additional AP courses for this year to continue that expansion of the program and to get as many students in those doors and kind of expanding their possibilities there as possible. And as you heard tonight, we've expanded our world language courses by offering Mandarin at all 3 secondary schools. And we were able to add some sections this year of foreign language at Nagel, period, so that we could expand opportunity for our students. And finally, we just took a moment to share some highlights from every single building that represent how in our district we're building developmental assets in all of our students, and that we're growing them not only academically but socially, emotionally, and helping them become citizens who give back. So you can see some of those there that we're really proud of. And then the secondary schools are up next. And we have highlights there that from the academics or athletics, the fine arts, performing arts. Students who come to Anderson, Turpin, and Nagel get a very well-rounded education and lots of opportunities to perform and go beyond the classroom walls, which we're very proud of. And I will just have to say, in wrapping up here, is that when you look at Jim Collins' Good to Great, it's always important, we know, that we kind of stare the brutal facts in their face and look and dig in to say, like, where can we get better? Where can we be stronger? At the same time that we keep up perseverance and strong hope that we know that we can get better, and we'll continue to focus on that. And the one thing that I think is great about working in this district is that we don't have to come up with incentive plans or little motivating plans to motivate our teachers on this. They very much take this information seriously. They dig into it, and they work as collaborative teams to figure out what they're going to do, to what they're going to respond. And so that's something we are very grateful for, that we have such hardworking teachers who don't rest with where we were last year. They're always continuing to raise that bar and achieve at a higher level. So, are there any questions for us? Okay.
And I'm glad you come back every year and tell us this, because I learned something new, and I'm still confused, but it's to some extent, but I learned a lot when you were coming. Okay. In the gap closing section for annual measurable objectives,
yes,
in the progress session under the, it seems like there's always some improvement desired for students with disabilities. Is that common throughout the state?
Yeah.
That's a difficult area, and it's one where we have to find new, better, different ways to increase those.
Yes, it's throughout the state. You also see that with the lowest 20th percent in achievement as well. And just today, Betsy and Tammy and I were up at a conference in Columbus, Battelle for Kids, and that happened to be one of the focus of one of the sessions, is just other districts coming together, high-performing districts throughout the state, trying to figure out like what's working, and that's what we do. We get together, we analyze what absolutely is making a difference, and people kind of let it all hang out up there. They share the good, they share the bad, and you learn from each other, and so that's what we commit to do.
I wondered as I was listening to some of these numbers, in some ways the mix of students within your district is going to dictate your outcome. For instance, Indian Hill is less likely to have an issue with gap closing than Forest Hills, and Forest Hills has less of an issue of it than some of the rural districts, I suspect.
There was an article that actually went out today in the Columbus Dispatch, I think is where it was, but talking about the effect of poverty on results. That was a piece of it. We try really hard in this district not to put any excuses in our way to say we really want to focus on success for all students, and that's why response intervention and instruction is important, that we're not like putting people into a category and kind of pigeonholing them, that we're looking at what are your needs and how do we address you right now without a label or anything. So the demographics do play a part. I mean, I'm not trying to deny that, but we really try to be open-minded about and not let us settle with that and just say, well, of course they didn't do well because they're this. Like we don't let that stop us.
I'm not suggesting it at all. I'm just trying to understand what's triggering the numbers.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have had a steady increase of our subgroups over the last 10 years that we continue to wrestle with to figure out like what are the best strategies for working with these students, for partnering with the homes. And every year we continue to get creative and try new ways to attend to them, because it is challenging. And as I said, the AMO, it goes up every year. So it's like you get a little bit ahead and you're getting really close, and then the bar goes up again. And so that can be very defeating as a school staff. And the one thing that I didn't really mention that I probably should have is that This assessment that we took last year was formatted in the same way that the OAAs have been in the past and the OGTs have been in the past. The difference is that it only reflected the new standards. And so it took out questions that reflected the old, just the new, and that it's called dual aligned. And so that was a shift for our teachers. And so not only were we shifting to the new standards in all content areas, now we've kind of moved, this test is behind us, and we're shifting to now another assessment called the Next Generation Assessments. And that's something we'll come back and talk to you more about later in the year. But those are going to be online assessments that happen for third graders all the way up to our high school students. And they're pretty intense. The level of rigor in all of those assessments outweigh what we're seeing now in our current testing system. And so that's something we're all trying to adjust to and figure out how to best prepare every single group for this change.
And actually, just something about the progress with regard to the subgroups. When the tests were originally created, they weren't created to be looked at in terms of growth. They were created separately, and so they aren't calibrated in that way. And so there's a SAS analytics is they are the ones who are analyzing value-added data. It's not a SAS analytics issue. They analyze data from Fortune 500 companies, but it's the way that Ohio originally created their tests. So they're still trying to. It's not perfect science, and so I think it can be misleading in that way. And I just want to make sure we talk about it.
The one good thing with these new assessments is that it will not be true. They are meant to be tied together year after year to be able to show that growth over time. So that's an improvement that we hope will be reflected in our results over time. But typically when you go into a change like this, there is an implementation dip, and so we're kind of, we're preparing for that.
When you say there's increase in the subgroups, do you mean that there's achievement increases?
That's, the goal changes every year.
Okay. What about numbers of students in the subgroups? That's increasing as well?
Yes, yes, both are
Because I
increasing.
think that's really important for us all to remember.
Yes. One that, we had this at Nagel 2 years ago and again last year, multiracial. You have to have at least 30 students in a group to be counted as a subgroup. And that had never really been a subgroup that was ever attended to in Forest Hills in terms of these records. And multiracial has increased. And so that's just an example. So we're looking at that specifically, students with disabilities, multiracial, economically disadvantaged, and students, I said that one, what's the one I'm forgetting now, ELL, English as a second language.
I know we discussed this in the past, but I know it's challenging that there are so many different measures, and that the actual measures themselves continue to change to make it even more challenging.
Yes.
But I do appreciate the fact that the district has a strategy in place to focus in on the ones that are the most frequently talked about to get us where we need to be. But I think it's important that everybody understand that you guys are very focused on that, you get it, and there are plans in place to do what it's going to take for the district. But again, knowing that, we're looking at, we'll be talking about this later in the meeting, more changes to come, and you guys have to keep up with that. So I just appreciate your patience with all the change.
And I have to say, the communication is very poor. I found out today, in a restroom up at Ohio State, that there's a test that might not be ready for the spring. It's part of the high school science, so that may not be coming out. And that was it's widely known by some people, but we hadn't heard that yet. And so it's just these random ways you find out information, because the support from the state sometimes isn't the timeline. It's very challenging to keep track of everything. So I appreciate you taking the time to hear our message, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. We'll move back and do the public comments. Section 6.1, I have 5 cards. Are there any others? No. 3 minutes each, and first up will be Heidi Huber. Not here? Am I reading this right?
Yeah, she was here earlier, but I think she may have.
All right. We won't hear from Heidi Huber. Sean Lyons.
Good evening. My name is Sean Lyons, and I am the current Mercer Elementary PTA president. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Over the past few years, I've come to have a tremendous respect for the teachers, administrators, and staff at Mercer Elementary. and I'm confident that the critical job that they are doing for us is being replicated throughout the other buildings in the Forest Hills District. We should all be grateful that they are doing such a wonderful job, at times in spite of working in subpar conditions due to our district's deteriorating facilities. At this time, I'm in support of the current bond levy for many reasons. I'm going to share a couple with you tonight. Number one, I recently had the opportunity to visit Montgomery Elementary, which is in the Sycamore School District. It's a building that was built in 2003. And as I went in, it was a real eye-opening moment for me. A simple, very, very simple entryway that solves all the security problems that we currently see at Mercer Elementary. For those of you who haven't been to Mercer, as you enter the building, you not only have the opportunity to miss the office, you have the opportunity to go straight upstairs. It's an entrance obviously designed for quick access and not for security. And as I thought about that entrance at Montgomery, I thought to myself, as a parent, I don't want to wait one more day than we have to see those kind of entrances in Forest Hills. The second reason that I'm for it at this time is that most of my career I worked in a workplace in the banking industry. It's an industry where climate control is a given, safe and secure facilities are an absolute must, access to current technology is critical, and where deficiencies in those areas leads to decreased morale and lower production. In my opinion, education is an industry where all these things hold true as well. If we want our students and teachers to perform at their best, we have to give them the tools that they need. As a final thought regarding some of the objections that have to do with wanting more planning, more process, when I worked on process or system improvements in the private sector, I always found that a good plan executed beats any plan that never gets executed. It's time for us to start executing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Andy Wolf.
Thank you. Like Mr. Lyons, I too have great respect for the leaders of our district. I've been associated with Forest Hills for 56 years, from kindergarten to the present moment, which just makes me old. But I love this school district. I was concerned about this levy when I first saw the survey, and it asked how we compared to our neighboring school districts. I don't really think we compete against them. We compete against Mason, Ryle, Indian Hill. I don't want to compete against Monessen and Amelia for facilities. 50 years ago, roughly, our school board went out on a big limb and asked the voters of our township to build Anderson High School, what would be the finest school in Southwest Ohio. It was way beyond the cutting edge. That decision made our neighborhood and our schools the very best place to be in Greater Cincinnati. That advantage is gone. I don't see this plan as a way to get that advantage back. Our students and our teachers are still hanging on to compete. I see it every day. But our facilities make their jobs much harder. But this is about facilities. I'm concerned we will no longer be a destination for families that desire the best. I've never seen so many loyal supporters of our schools be opposed to a levy, and it's not about money. They don't think this is good enough. I've seen nothing that says that all buildings will even meet the state's minimum standards. In fact, I've seen a lot of information to the contrary. I've seen a lot of inequalities in the plan. Some buildings and neighborhoods get better treatment than others. As a coach, I too get around and see a lot of schools. I actually walk through them and look around and snoop. Talk to the janitors. They know everything. Our facilities are primitive by comparison to most of the people that we really need to compete against. It is my understanding that other options exist, but were not really offered. We've all seen facelifts, and I think we'd all agree, most of them just don't work as a long-range plan. We can't go back in time to planning and things like that, but if we could, I believe I would have said to the planners what I've said to my students on hundreds of occasions. Go back to your desk and start over, and we're going to keep doing this until we get it right.
Thank you. Andrea Gately.
My name is Andrea Gately, and I am a Forest Hills parent, teacher, and community member. Tonight I'd like to highlight one of the cornerstones of Anderson Township, and that's our Forest Hills schools. As an educator of 28 years, and having worked in 3 other districts before finding my home here, I'm continually amazed by the professionalism of my colleagues, the resourcefulness of the students, the collaboration of our parents, and the hard work of our many community volunteers. This indeed is a district of excellence. Before I was a teacher in this district, I was a community member. I'm a transplant from the west side, so I really didn't know much about Anderson Township when I came here. I was newly married and hoping to start my own family, so I did my research as any good teacher would do. This included a visit to the district office, a walk through Summit Elementary, and talking with several would-be neighbors about before purchasing our first home. I was pleasantly surprised by my visits and the comments that I heard. Everyone spoke highly about their positive experiences here. Even a neighbor who lived across the street and sent her children to a local parochial school said, you know, you really can't go wrong wherever you decide to send your kids to school. Upon completion of my daughter Sydney's kindergarten year at Summit Elementary, we built a new house. We toured Wilson Elementary, which was our new neighborhood school. And although the staff was very friendly and accommodating, I must admit that after I toured the building, I wondered what my daughter's elementary experience would be like. I had more than a few concerns about the layout and structural integrity of that building, and that was 14 years ago. Since then, my daughter and son have attended Wilson, Nagel, and Turpin. One's in college, and one will be graduating this year. I know now that our schools are more than just bricks and mortar. They're more than leaky ceilings and fragile wiring. They're schools built on strong foundations of hardworking teachers and administrators, talented students, and parents with a spirit of volunteerism unlike anything I've ever seen before. These are the things that make our district wonderful and unique. I'm proud to say that in 2007, I became a Forest Hills employee. I had worked in other districts, so I was eager to share my experiences, learn from my new colleagues, and continue my career in a district that I already loved. I began my work at Maddox Elementary, and now I'm at Wilson. I can assure you that some of the most passionate and dedicated people work right here in the Forest Hills School District. Like most Anderson Township residents, I'm extremely proud of our accomplishments and the experiences that we provide for our students on a daily basis. My own children have benefited from these many opportunities, and they've been able to dream and grow and develop while being students here. But I'm also aware that these wonderful learning opportunities are becoming increasingly difficult to recreate because our buildings are eroding. I've seen firsthand the wonders and the worries that we're experiencing in our aging buildings.
Ms. Gately,
Yes.
could I ask you to wrap up?
Oh, yes,
I hate to do
absolutely.
that.
Yes, no, I'm almost finished. So they need updated safety measures, accessibility for the handicapped, wiring to allow for increased technology in classrooms and hallways without leaks, controlled climate to maximize focus. Delaying these projects will stall community progress and cost our Forest Hills families much more than a few tax dollars. By supporting this bond issue, you're making an investment in our community. Please help us ensure that the crumbling buildings' lack of security and accessibility, faulty rooftops and wiring won't ruin our opportunities for future generations. Because this bond issue is much more than a tax issue. It's about our privilege and responsibility to continue the excellence in our schools and uphold the values of the community we live in. And by updating all of these schools, we can charge into the 21st century with confidence, knowing that the students we serve will become responsible, well-educated citizens that continue to make our township such a great place to live.
Thank you. I do apologize if I'm cutting people off. I said 3 minutes, and I'm trying to stick to what I told people. Mr. Traylor?
So my name is Steve Traylor, and I'm the principal at Maddox Elementary School. I think I should start off by saying I haven't been here quite as long as Andy has. But of all the administrators, including everybody that's sitting up here, I have been here the longest. And I have been in different buildings. I've talked to the people in different buildings. I have fellow colleagues that I mentored in different buildings. And the one thing that I can say is that it is time. The time is now, and I believe that the plan is right. We have a responsibility to put our students in the best position we can to help them learn. When we open school and we start our first day of school with the humidity so bad inside the buildings that it creates wet floors, and we have to put out wet floor signs, and we have to put out fans so that our students can walk down the hallway, how are they supposed to concentrate when they're in the math class and when they're reading? When we have buildings that don't allow our students to have access to their classroom, at Anderson High School, entire teams of teachers have to move when a student has a broken leg or is in a wheelchair because they don't have access to a different floor. Or when we're at Turpin High School and students have to walk through one room to get to another room. Students are crammed into spaces that are pie-shaped. They're not even regular classrooms. Students are working in the hallways. This is not the best situation. Yet look what we saw up here tonight. All the National Merit semifinalists, the teachers that are recognized for STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And this is what they have to work with. What could they do if they had climate control? If they had air conditioning? If they had heat? In my building, there are students in third grade classrooms that wear coats for 3 months out of the year. This is not state of the art. This is not even fair to our students. Yet we compete. Year after year, we produce. Year after year, our students produce. And I've heard it all. I've heard people say, when I went to school, we didn't have air conditioning. Well, they didn't have air conditioning in my school either, but they didn't have the doors locked all day either. It's hotter inside our buildings than it is outside our buildings. It's time for us to stand up, to give our teachers an opportunity to teach our children and to make a difference. The other argument I've heard is it's not going to be equitable because Wilson Elementary is going to be new. Their cinder blocks built in 2015 are going to be just like the cinder blocks in my building built in 1966. Educationally, it is equal. Educationally, our children will have the same opportunities with science and technology, reading, writing, mathematics. That's what matters.
Mr. Traylor, I have to ask you to wrap up too. Thank you. Does Heidi Huber come back? No? All right, thank you, everybody. We appreciate your comments and for taking the time to share those with us. Item 8.1, board discussion. Anyone have anything to discuss? No? Items 9.1, 13.2 are going to be consent agenda items, except we're going to ask if we can
Student Services has just 2 items. The first, 9.1, is a residency waiver. We are recommending approval for this waiver for our Turpin High School senior for this school year. According to our policy, this waiver may be approved if the parent moves out of the district after the commencement of classes in the student's senior year. The second item, 9.2, is our overnight field trip by Anderson High School Symphony and Philharmonic Orchestras to New York City, New York, April 21st to the 25th. 75 students and 10 chaperones will be participating in this New York Invitational Music Festival. The costs will be defrayed by support from fundraising activities and our band boosters.
Thank you. Item 10.1, curriculum, Ms. Adams.
Destiny of the Republic has been on review at Central Office since August 25th at the Board of Education meeting, and so we would like to recommend that you approve this supplemental book for grades 10 through 11 for the history class as shown. Do you want to go on and do 10.2?
Please.
Okay. We're asking for you to relook at the fee schedule for both Turpin and Anderson High School because we have some changes. They're listed in here. It was just a code incorrect number, so that's being corrected through this.
Thank you. And then Human Resources, item 11.1, Ms. Carnahan.
Item 11.1A, we have retirement of 2 of our teachers. This is not effective until June 3rd, 2015. Jack Butcher for 26 years and Mary or Joanne Hart for 14 years. We also have retirement of Glenda Beard, 24 years as a bus driver. This is backdated to January 1st of 2014. Going on to item C, we have a resignation. D, change of salary. Item E would be change of assignment. You see several items there. Looking at G, we have appointments. The appointments go from page 2, 3, 4, where you will see our mentors, and as an aside, the mentors play such a key role with our new teachers. They're very appreciated. And it goes through to page 5. Item I, we see a number of our coaches and advisors, and you will see reflected within this item some of the supplementals from our new supplemental salary schedule. Moving on to item J, substitute personnel. Item K is a memorandum of understanding with our Forest Hills Teachers Association. There is an exhibit. Item I is our supplemental salary schedule. You actually approved this at the last meeting, but we did make a few minor adjustments to that, and so we're asking you to go ahead and approve it again. If you recall, during the August meeting, I told you that we had reflected all of the changes from the 13-14 to 14-15 school year, with the exception of the bus transportation. We wanted to make sure we had that number right. We met with transportation this week and Ray Johnson, and we did have a decrease of 0.25 for our bus routes, and so that does bring our staffing to 777.59.
Thank you, Ms. Carnahan. Business Operations, Mr. Johnson.
Item 12.1 is a resolution selecting and ranking design professionals directed by, so we can direct commencement of negotiations. At the last board meeting, you gave the okay to advertise for requests for qualifications, and the attached resolution is ranking these firms. The resolution allows us to begin negotiations with the number 1 ranked firm. If not able to satisfactorily close that, then we go down to then number 3. Item 12.2 is a change order at Anderson High School. This is for the window project. The scope of the work was such that we have a negative change order of $2,500. I ask the board to approve. 12.3 is for the window replacement at Turpin High School. We have a negative change order of $1,440 that I would ask the board to approve. 12.4 is for the partial carpet replacement at Sherwood Elementary. We have a negative change order of $900 that would ask the board to approve. Nagel Middle School, we have a change order of a positive $3,200 due to some change in the scope of the work that I would ask the board to approve. And the final change order is one for Turpin High School, which is the pool ceiling and gym floor renovations of an amount of $4,416.93. I would ask the board to approve. Item 12.7 is the termination of the contract with SFA Architects. It's recommended we terminate the contract with SFA Architects.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Section 13, beginning with item 13.1, our treasurer's report, and the 5-year forecast.
Yes, 5-year forecast. I left a clean copy of that at your place as well. As you know, at least twice a year we have to bring the 5-year forecast to the board for updates. The last time the board approved this was in May. Lots of changes, most positive have occurred. We ended the year obviously with little short of $2 million in under expenditures, 2.7% different than our appropriations. A lot of, as I said, it's not so much a cost-cutting move, it's just being cost-conscious of everything we're doing. And I think that's reflected in those numbers. And obviously, as we built the appropriations, we did have a couple of revenue items that were pretty significant changes. The 2-year state budget numbers that we were set to receive was changed and increased to the tune of over $700,000 a year, which will actually go through the entire forecast for the next 4 years because we baselined at it at that point. In addition to some program reimbursements. Other small changes from a property tax standpoint, but the big changes was in the state funding. And then from an expense standpoint, pretty much as we expected, no significant changes there. The summary of all of that, as I've sent to the board, is the forecast projects a positive cash balance through fiscal year 17-18. This means financially the March 2012 operating levy that was projected to last 3 years should last 5 years based on the assumptions that we've made here. Our commitment was 3 years, and those negative years were 14, 15, and 16, and now we're at 17 and 18 being positive also, so that's the 5 positive years. 5th year showing a negative balance. So that's positive news, and I would give you some examples of what the key variables are, but I think the thing to look at in the forecast is line 6.01. Obviously, we're in the bell curve of of funding, and in all 5 of the years in the forecast is projected a negative spend, and that's not atypical. That is the way the funding works. We pass a levy, money comes in, and with no other mechanism in place to increase that funding, we will then draw that down. We have, what I think we've done the last few years is slow that growth of that expend. And a lot of people take the credit for that, but I think it's, so that's what's extended the levy. I put down the key variables, obviously our under expenditures, state budget that's just starting to be talked about, many staffing changes we make, employee benefits, which we've had some good success with as well, and any operational mandates. But positive news to report on the forecast. And obviously there's 12 plus pages of what the numbers mean, but that's the numbers of how they got there.
So currently, the change orders that Ray just went over, that money comes from operating funds, correct?
Correct.
And so if the levy were to pass with the PI attached to it, that would be $600,000. That would not come from operating funds?
Per year.
Per year?
Yeah,
And
per year.
That could have a positive effect on
Absolutely,
the
yeah. I
forecast.
think that and just, whatever happens, there's some uncertainty. I mean, we may have another state budget that gives us a little bit more. We flatlined that, pretty conservative, but that's been successfully the way to go, is being conservative with that unknown. But
conceivably, with that levy, we would have fixed every issue conceivably known to us in every building. Plus, we would be kicking off $600,000, taking it out of our operations, putting it towards maintenance.
Correct. And would be able to be used for the next cycle of what's the next capital improvements that are needed. All the big items in the foreseeable future would be done. So to your point, yes.
Well, Rick, in your typical understated way, you breezed through that, and it's really great news that we've been able to extend the life of this operating levy cycle with yet one more school year. So, and I recognize a lot of people have a lot of input in that, but I know you're also driving that bus, so thank you.
Well, and it's a fine line, and I think it's, we can talk about it as we go along. It's a fine line because we want to make sure that we have the tools that we need to be successful in the classroom. We have that, but we have to make that balance, and it is a balancing act of making sure the resources are where we need them to be to keep the process moving. Because if that fails, it doesn't matter how long the 5-year forecast goes. So but it is truly a balancing act that we all participate in for the betterment of the district. So thank you.
When we talk sometimes, one of the most exciting things we do is grant diplomas. And on the academic side, that's the pinnacle of success. That's an exciting time. On the business side, the non-academic side, when we are able to approve a 5-year forecast that extends our levy cycle out another year, that is, on the business side, equivalent. I mean, that's huge. And it's something that the community really needs to be aware of, and I think a lot of places it would be celebrated because, like I said, you just cannot overstate what that really means to the district and our community and our property taxpayers. That's a big deal. So, and again, you went through some of the reasons for it. It's a lot of different things, but I just again, that's a huge achievement.
Well, and the key is the money being spent where it belongs. I think, we spent the time, and we should spend the time on the academic side of the quality profile, but there's a couple of things in the financial part that I think we're spending money in the classroom. I think we're 20th, top 20 in the state of Ohio out of 600-plus districts of spending percentage in the classroom. So that's how it happens. So it's not, and that's everybody out here that does that. So we all participate in that. But just making sure the money gets where it needs to go.
Thank you. Anything else, or item 13?
Item 13.2. Pretty standard here, the donations. Obviously, not standard is the Mercer PTA, $11,477, so huge donation from them. We very much appreciate their and all our partners. B is a statement of board accounts. 2 funds are negative. We're waiting for funding, so there's no issues there. Our receipts are in line with and expenditures, for that matter, are in line with this time of the year. No issues to report there. Monthly bank reconciliations are listed. G, we have our list of investments. I will give a quick update. We have started the process with meter investments, and we have with this 5-year forecast, we'll generate another cash flow, which we've already done and submitted, and they've already responded with kind of a plan. So working through that. I'm hoping that October will be our kickoff month, so I'll have more information about that coming up. Item H, we have the amendments to the appropriation, obviously a large increase as we received our auxiliary service funding. Board service fund meeting expenses, item I. Item J, we're asking the board to approve some voluntary benefits. Obviously through our collective bargaining that ended I think in November of last year, one of the items is we would get back together with all of our groups to look at additional benefits that supplement what we offer as a district, but that employees can pay for, and obviously with our buying power, it's very cost effective. We met several times, and with our partnership with Haran, we're able to narrow that to a couple of partners, and then we landed with Assurant to offer 3 voluntary products. Tammy and I both kind of spearheaded that with Dallas's help to bring really 3 products that are the most attractive and the ones that people want, to our employees, that will actually supplement some of the things that we're already providing. These are 100% employee paid, but I assure you, you don't find these prices without coming through the district. And they're going to be payroll deductions, and they're going to be part of the open enrollment meetings that we have coming up. So very attractive, very necessary, and our staff will be very excited about that. So we're asking the board to approve Assurant as a partner with those 3 benefits starting in January. So it's recommended the board approve items 9.1 through 13.2, pulling out items item 12.7.
Motion?
I move that we approve the items stated.
Second.
Mr. Teffer?
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes. And item 12.7, can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Teffer? Discussion?
Just for a minute, I think we all just found out today that we took our notice as a board. And I was in a deposition yesterday, so I didn't give this full consideration this afternoon. I had a couple of conversations with a board member and a couple people in administration, and I just have to say that I've been, as we've been sitting here and prior to this, I've been sort of struggling with how to vote, and crazy. I looked up on my phone what the significance of an extension is. A lot of times people will abstain when they don't want to vote on something for one reason or another. A lot of times it involves a conflict of interest, but one of the reasons that's cited is that person may also abstain when they do not feel adequately informed about the issue at hand or do not participate in relevant discussion. Basically, not ready to vote. So I just want to say to you all that that's how I'm going to vote. I believe if you go for something, you need to be for it. Just like against, you need to be absolutely against it. I'm just, and I really like I think this probably would work. So I just wanted to let all of you know.
All right, thank you. Mr. Teffer?
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger? Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes. Moving.
If I could just bring up one thing, I didn't get my investment money speech in.
Oh, by all means, $33, right?
No, it went up to 43.
Oh.
So I know most of the people in here have heard this before, but our PI has been for years based on the interest we've made on the money that we've set aside. And in the past, that's been $1 million a year roughly. I did a quick calculation, 1 million divided by 12 is $83,000 a month. So in the past, we've gotten 80-some thousand dollars a month into our permanent improvement fund. Now, in 2008, all of the interest rates went down, and now we're down to, we're up to $43 from 80,000. So that's one of the reasons that we're here, or that with all our issue that we've been talking about with the PI fund part of this, is that instead of being able to put $80,000 into our capital improvements every month, now we're down to $40, which means that we're having to go through our operating dollars when we do that. So I bring it up because it's, although it used to be about $28, I think, in January, so we're up to 40.
Thank you. Item 14.1, Business Advisory Committee report.
We had a meeting on 9/8. I think the key topics, obviously, we spent a lot of time on facilities and the bond issue and just discussion related to that. Very good, positive, healthy discussions came out of that. And obviously, anytime board members would like to stop by or there's a topic to discuss, it's a great group to bounce things off of. But we also talked about investment options, salary surveys, and our health insurance renewal, all positive. And I think it's a group that if you need some things done, you can always call on them too. So thank you.
Thank you. Item 14.2 is the Forest Hills Foundation for Education report. Big things happening. The October 6th through the 10th, there is a all-in-community food drive that's going to be going on at each of the schools to benefit interparish ministries in Newtown. It's in conjunction with both the foundation and the various PTAs and PTOs throughout the district. They'll be collecting food throughout the district, throughout the week, including the night of the Anderson-Turpin game on October 10th. And on October 10th, they have the Distinguished Alumni Luncheon at Ivy Hills Country Club. It begins at 11 o'clock. And this year, the honorees from Anderson are Mike Brandy from the class of 1974 and Michael Craycraft from the class of 1990. From Turpin, we have Pete Delois from the class of 1978 and Stephanie Cohn-Lang from the class of 1987. Forest Hills district staff, Mike Hall, former Anderson High School principal, will be honored, and the Distinguished Service Award will be given to Jeannie Johnston Miller from the Anderson High School class of 1959. So I'd encourage everybody to attend on October 10th, 11 o'clock at Ivy Hills Country Club. Online, they can register, Dee? Register online. Also then on November 15th is the Soiree for Success, and that'll be a party to benefit the foundation. It's going to be at the amazing home of Joe and Lorraine Marinick. It's also being presented by Zika Homes, so we would encourage you also to attend that function. I understand that just the visit to the house itself would be worth going. On September 6th, just a couple weeks ago, the foundation had a mini camp for the Destination Imagination and provided information and got people going on that. After school and before school tutoring began on September 16th at Nagel, and the foundation is once again doing the ACT, SAT, and PSAT prep sessions. The first one is the PSAT prep session on Sunday, September 28th. There'll be 2 sessions from 1 to 2:30 or 3 to 4:30. And then the PSAT will be on Sunday, October 5th from 1 to 4. And the ACT prep session will be, again, 2 sessions on October 12th from 1 to 2:30 or 3 to 4:30. Everybody should check the foundation website for additional information. And 14.3, legislative liaison. Randy?
Got 2 items to talk about. One of them I have a handout that should be in your stack here. The first one is has to do, this has been, I think, mentioned once or twice already this evening, the new high school graduation law that was put into effect in June. The legislature looked to the State Board of Education to create many of the rules needed to guide local implementation. The State Board this week approved 2 essential elements of the new requirements, the graduation point system and a list of tests students can take in lieu of Ohio's tests. I'm not going to go through this. It's listed in here. Unless Natasha or Dr. Jackson, you want to add anything on this. I don't know how much this is going to impact Forest Hills.
But it's just good that they're finally making some decisions. There will be 18 points that high school students will have to generate or earn for graduation, and those are kind of laid out a little bit in regards to this piece of legislation.
Second thing, House Rules and Reference Committee held another hearing earlier this month on House Bill 597. That's the legislation that would eliminate and prohibit Ohio's use of the Common Core state standards. During the hearing, the committee accepted a substitute version of that bill that these are the changes from the previous bill that extends the amount of time Ohio would follow the old Massachusetts standards, which is what they're proposing we would go to if this passes, from 2 years to 3 years. It would remove the language from the previous version allowing districts to opt out of the state assessments, that's significant, and removes all references to model curriculum in state law and prohibits the State Board of Education from developing model curriculum. Interesting. The committee also accepted an amendment that would require the state's review committees, was created as part of the biennium budget review, to compare the Common Core state standards with the old Massachusetts standards. I won't go into more detail, but it gets more complex. Apparently, future legislation is unknown at this time, so the expectation is they may actually wind up doing regional committee hearings, so stay tuned. That's all I have for the legislative liaison report.
Thank you, as always, for keeping us informed. 14.4, Safety Committee, Julie?
There is no report yet.
Okay. 14.5, Saga, did you attend to that meeting, or is it this month?
It was Tuesday, September 9th at 3 p.m. Number of points they were on the agenda. A life skills curriculum, evidence-based model is now in place in the 4th through 6th grade as well as the middle school. The peer counseling program, where high schoolers lead 5th graders, is active. Red Ribbon Week, which is formerly the Substance Prevention Week, is tentatively scheduled for October 18th through 26th. Their positive slogan is, "A healthy me is drug-free me." Saga is also participating, and I think we've got a slide up here, in the 5th quarter event after the Anderson-Turpin football game, and they're encouraging students to participate in that after-game activity. The next thing they went through in the agenda was a PowerPoint presentation on the results of the 2014 Pride Survey. I've selected a few slides just to share with you because I thought it was somewhat interesting. The results were somewhat interesting. The most recent data findings were released in May of 2014. Just so you understand where this is coming from, it's a 13-14 student and parent survey. This was implemented October 2013 to all Forest Hills School District students grades 7 through 12, so when you look at the data, you got to keep that in mind. It does include McNick. The Saga Parent Attitude Survey was also part of this, and so there is data from parents. If we could hit, I think, the next one. The gist of this is positive results in our community as far as 30-day use of alcohol and marijuana. Next slide. I'm just going to zip through these, but the good news is, this simply shows the increase from the 7th grade to the 12th grade. Next slide. That's a little bit concerning because I think everybody has heard that is becoming more of a problem, more of an epidemic in the greater Cincinnati community. Next slide. That's probably not surprising. Next slide. People's understanding of how harmful this is going up. So people, education is working, people's understanding of what's going on is working. Again, I'm paraphrasing some of what I heard at the meeting. Even though less than 2% is happening at school, that's still concerning to think that is actually happening in our buildings. Next. Obviously, good grades correlating with people not using substances. Next slide. They were able to provide some more background information I'm going to share with you today, but the value of parents and teachers in influencing students to make good decisions. Next slide. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, are there any more? Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was kind of information that's helpful to understand what's going on in our community. Let's see. Oh, one other point. The Saga Coalition is funded by a federal drug-free communities grant. This grant has 2 5-year cycles. Saga was renewed for the second 5-year cycle. However, October 1st of 2014 begins their 10th and final year of funding. and the funding will run out at the end of September 2015, so I think they're, part of their, what they're working on is trying to find another source of funding. It was more than I thought it was, but I can't remember the exact number. Yeah. Yeah. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. We don't have an executive session tonight. So our next regular meeting is on October 27th, 2014, 7 p.m. here. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Mr. Tepfer?
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss? Yes. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes, thank you all very much for coming and for staying.